Welcome back. This is a dude with a brew. Thank you for stopping by. So for this week, we do a continuation of Mere Christianity, Book 1, Chapter 1. We leave off from last week when we talked about the last sentence was simply this: and there would be no sense in trying to do that unless you and he had some sort of agreement as to what was right and wrong are. Just as there would be no sense in saying that a footballer had committed a foul unless there was some agreement about the rules of football. We were talking about the rules dictate whether or not we have some type of wrongdoing against us, thus morality. And those rules essentially point to that we have a creator. So let us continue. Now this law or rule about right and wrong used to be called the law of nature. Nowadays, when we talk of the laws of nature, we usually mean things like gravitation or heredity or the laws of chemistry. But when the older thinkers called the law of right and wrong the law of nature, they really meant the law of human nature. The idea was that just as all bodies are governed by the law of gravitation and organisms by biological laws, so the creatures called men also by his law. With this great difference, that a body could not choose whether it obeyed the law of gravitation or not, but a man could choose either to obey the law of human nature or to disobey it. We may put this another way. Each man is at every moment subjected to several different sets of laws, but there is only one of these which he is free to disobey. As a body, he is subjected to gravitation and cannot disobey it. If you leave him unsupported in midair, he has no more choices about falling than a stone has. As an organism, he is subjected to various biological laws which he cannot disobey any more than any animal can. That is, he cannot disobey those laws which he shares with other things. But the law which is peculiar to his human nature, the law he does not share with other animals or vegetables or inorganic things, is the one he can disobey. This law was called the law of nature because people thought that everyone knew it by nature and did not need to be taught it. They did not mean, of course, that you might not find an odd individual here and there who did not know it, just as you find a few people who are colorblind or have no ear for a tune. But taking the race as a whole, they thought the human idea of decent behavior was obvious to everyone, and I believe they were right. If they were not, then all things we said about the war were nonsense. What was the sense in saying the enemy were in the wrong unless right is a real thing, which the Nazis at the bottom knew as well as we did and ought to have practice? If they had no notion of what we mean by right, then though we might still have had to fight them, we could not more have blamed them for that than for the color of their hair. So let us stop there. And simply, when we have rules and when we have laws, we have the ability to judge what we have. Morality allows us to sit there and just be able to use our judgments based off of what we know in our hearts to be right and what we know that every human has a right to have. Every human has a right to life. So when someone takes a life, we know that they did something that's immorally wrong. So today we go back, and this is our last thing in our beer review anthology for the spring of Troegs Brewing Company. This is our Boysenberry. Let us get close. I put the camera back a little bit to give me a little bit of space, but Boysenberry Tart Ale. Let's see what we got right there. You see that right there? Let's see if we can get it to focus, but it doesn't look like it wants to. So, Boysenberry Tart Ale. We have our description on the bottle, as always, 4.5% alcohol. Best by the 22nd of next month. We have fermentation, lactobacillus, and house yeast. Colors violet red, 12 ounces. The jammy juiciness of 12 pounds per barrel of real boysenberries is balanced with a bit of pucker thanks to a first-stage fermentation with lactobacillus. Coriander gives off hints of wildflowers, and a pinch of salt amplifies the refreshing sweet tart berry goodness. As always, we have our government warning, and then we also have our recycling information. I'm not one for fruit, so the appeal to this is very low to me, 5 out of 10. I'm not one for tartness also, so we can see where that's going to be going. This does not mean that this is not an enjoyable beer for those people that like tart beers and tart ales. tiny little description. Ale brewed with boysenberry, sea salt, and coriander. Let's pop this open and see what kind of color we have. Might get one of those card pop top things, the obnoxious ones that makes it sound very loud. So, trying some new things, trying to get back to where I can be. Let's get that right there for you. Again, we're using the Duvel glass. Nice pink red color. Look at that. Look at that right there. Very clear too. It's getting some condensation from the actual air that we have in our apartment right now. See, when a beer has this tart flavor and has that berry smell, it just is off. It's not appealing to me. It just doesn't make sense to me. But I know that some people out there really enjoy it and really enjoy the tart side of things with beer. Kind of reminds me of, you know, a little bit of a aroma of strawberries. It also, let's see. I don't know why I'm going to say plums, but there used to be a little plum tree on our property, and kind of strawberries and plums, but that shouldn't make sense for boysenberry. Yeah, it's very tart. But for our brew aroma, we're going to do a 7 out of 10. So far we have a 12 out of 20. Tartness, I could lend to it a sour flavor in there as well. For what it is though, for how clear it is, the color that it has, and all that, I'm going to rate this higher than what I probably would rate it, because I see the value and I see where they're going to try to go with it. And Troeg is just an amazing company. If I'm biased towards them, it's biased in a positive way. Yeah, the tartness, I can respect it for what it is. So because I can respect it for what it is, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So that bumps our 12 out of 20 up to a 19 out of 30. And this is my opinion. If you like tart beers, go after them. Just enjoy life. And as I always state, drink it in moderation so you can enjoy it and actually enjoy the flavor instead of just gulping it down and becoming intoxicated. Let us go to troegs.com/beer/boysenberry/tart ale, 4.5% ABV. Additions: boysenberry, sea salt, coriander, fermentation, lactobacillus, and house yeast. Color is red, is a violet red. Description right here. You can taste what they taste. Availability is around the spring, 6-packs in 12-ounce cans. You have your food notes, your social media, their Independent Craft Brewers Association certified label right there, and handcrafted by the Troegs Brewing Company. Thank you for stopping by. The website is always good, as always. So, in other news, I found a way to get around the YouTube restriction. They recently allowed a restriction to go in place that I am no longer able to use my app for YouTube to live stream, so now I have to do a little workaround and always make sure that my live stream settings in YouTube are set up so that it can be generic, so I can just talk about what I want to do if I want to live stream at the last moment. But the workaround is a simple thing, and so far it hasn't been disconnected from the ability to use it. It's a good thing. I was sitting there thinking about, you know, something today. We have, let's just tell a story real quick. We have about a minute left on the video because, you know, my phone only likes to do 10-minute videos. But let's tell a story real quick. So, person goes and gets a degree, and then all of a sudden, after the degree, they hit hard times. They see the hard times, and the hard times cause them to have what society considers a breakdown. Okay. And I think they're validated in their breakdown because, honestly, they're not really looking at life the way that they were looking before they went to college. They got their degree. And it's evident in their simple acts that they have. Like if they're wearing promotional gear from that college that they got their degree from, and ideally that promotional gear points to a theme in there that they are not, they obviously don't see the irony in it. So when they have a breakdown and they're wearing an item that says that they're one thing and they're not, they're legitimately a walking billboard, a inconsistency in life, and let us pray for them. I have hit this many times, and that's how it goes. Just how it is. So it looks like it's going to allow me to do more than 10 minutes. Good. But essentially, you know, instead of sitting there judging that person, when I saw this inconsistency, I actually did something today that I was very surprised at. I went and prayed, and I was like, you know, we wrongly judge people constantly. We do. And you are wrongly judged. I'm wrongly judged. And we have to try to remind ourselves not to do that. We have to try to reflect on what we've done and try to see how we can become better for the people around us so that they can come to Jesus. That's all that matters. But with that story I'm telling you, there's an image that sometimes that these organizations sell that people like to believe that that image is possible for them. But it may not be. We may have some people that think that have the ability to be a hero, and in reality they'll never be a hero. They could be told that they're the best in the world, they're 1% of the country, but sometimes people can seep into those 1% clubs and groups, and they'll never actually ever belong. I don't know if we're doing a disservice to them if we sit there and we don't identify the people and try to push them in the direction that they need to go. But everybody has to make a choice, and everybody has to make their choices. So if they make it in and they are part of that 1% club, they obviously had some type of potential or ability that caused the people that are required to admit them into those clubs and those groups and those types of organizations that they met in order to get that person to say okay, the approving authority. But for example, I probably am very fortunate to become a part of the United States Marine Corps like I was. But I was not the best. I would like to say there was 80% of the time I was average, but it was probably more like 40. There's so many great people around me that just shined in that career like no other. In other aspects they didn't shine, but in that career they shined like no other. And it's all about balance, I guess, you know. But they deserve the title Marine. I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't say anything wrong, but they deserved to be called a Marine. I walked around, I was able to gain rank, I was able to do things, I was able to try. I tried my best as I can, but you know, there's some admittance on my part that I have to say that I could have done better. I miss it. I miss the Marine Corps every day. But I'm glad that, you know, the transition out happened the way it is so that that beautiful fighting force can function more efficiently as the ones that don't stay in. The ones that don't stay in are some of the best, some of the worst. Some of the ones that stay in are some of the best, some of the worst. But as we look at ourselves, we might want to start focusing on what we're actually doing to those groups that we're a part of. I know a lot of people like to say that community is a good thing, but if you're hurting the community, then maybe we have to put yourself away from it. And there's a few of us out there that like to be those solitary people. They like to sit by themselves and be alone. And it's lonely, it is. But maybe there's a reason why you want to be lonely. You want to be by yourself. Maybe there's a reason why that, you know, you're better thinking with yourself instead of actually talking out loud with others. Because that's how you're made. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. Doesn't mean that there's anything that you should do in order to eliminate yourself out of the picture of this world. It means that you are made to do greatness in your way. And that greatness may be just stepping aside and allowing those people that are made for the Marine Corps, made for being those heroes, do the job that they excel at. And maybe they'll come talk to you later about things that they need help with. Maybe there's ones that excel at being physically fit and excel at being in the Marine Corps. Maybe they have an issue with family life. Maybe they have an issue with actually trying to get along with others. And maybe that's where you excel, but you don't excel in a fit way. So as I sit here and I talk about this beer review, this 19 out of 30, life is all about moderation, reflection, and knowing how to balance it correctly. There's too many of us that don't know how to do that in all aspects of life. And sometimes you have to make concessions in order to make it to the next stage. And those concessions will hurt others. So it's just how it has to be. So, and if you don't like hurting others with those concessions that you have to make, then there's maybe those things that you have to focus on, or simply not committing yourself to many things like you tried to do. I know this from experience because every week there's issues that come up, and I have to react to the way that it does. But maybe we don't commit as much. At least our name won't be on it. But remember though, if you do commit and the person that you're working with or the people that you're working with that may judge you down the line and say, man, he's not reliable, remember to give better grace than what they give you. Because everyone does it. And then the people that judge you or say, sorry, I shouldn't have done it this way, tell them it's okay. Because you understand. They may not want you to understand because they hold themselves to a higher standard, but hey, tell them that you understand. So, well, this is all the thoughts that I have. This is a long beer review. It's almost going on 18 minutes. I say cheers to you and your family. I ask that you understand that God will bless you. Jesus Christ loves every single person on this planet. And he died for your sins. I love you guys. Have a good night. I'll talk to you guys later. Again, I want to thank you for stopping by. Like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys later.